All right, so I think everyone, we are starting to record. I'm still letting a few people in. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the fourth quarter options or the possibilities of what instruction would look like at Spark this morning. You've already seen this presentation if you did see the video that I created for parents, but that is okay. What I'm going to do after each slide, I'm just going to pause and let you ask whatever questions that you may have. It would be easier for me if you just unmute yourself and just ask your question live. I do not mind that, but just in case, you can also place it in the chat. Okay, so snapshots for fourth quarter. This is a relatively easy thing. The very first thing that I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of is that we are looking at three possibilities that are specifically for Spark. The first possibility being what our current model is. The second possibility, simultaneous teaching, and I'm going to describe all of these. And the third would be hybrid. And I see in the chat, Mary is curious about the hybrid concept or the hybrid approach in APS. So I will discuss all three parts or all three possibilities. All right, the first one, you guys know, it's simple. It's well, it's not simple, but it's face-to-face students with face-to-face teachers, virtual students with virtual teachers. It's exactly what third quarter students are doing at this moment. If you declared for your child face-to-face, they are here in the building and they have a face-to-face teacher. And that's just how that works. We provide, or we make sure that we have true social distancing within our classrooms. So we follow CDC guidelines, and then that means only a certain amount of students and teacher could be in that room at any given time based on the total square footage. That's why you see smaller face-to-face classrooms at Spark, because we're maintaining social distancing guidelines. But that is also the reason why you may see larger virtual class sizes, because of the fact that we have less teachers to provide instruction virtually. So you will see a larger class size from the virtual perspective. Again, maintaining all the current social distancing practices face-to-face. And even for fourth quarter, there is a possibility that those virtual classes will grow even larger. I know that's not something that we want to hear, but that is the reality of our current situation, because we are in the month of February, about to pop into March. We do not have additional personnel to keep virtual classes at small. We just don't have the personnel to do it. So that is the current model that we're using. And I will say this too, it's also the preferred model for Spark in terms of making sure that it's easier to provide good and effective instruction for kids, to have a teacher dedicated to each one of those particular modes. All right, the next one is the simultaneous teaching. This is the one where you may read about it often. I've seen a lot of articles regarding simultaneous teaching across the US. This one is considered an incredibly, it can be incredibly difficult and incredibly draining for teachers. What it means is that teachers have to teach both face-to-face students in their room, and they also have virtual students on Zoom at the same time. The district may refer to it as you having roomies and Zoomies at the exact same time. The reason we would even consider doing that is because it continues to allow us to maintain social distancing, which is huge. And then also, one thing that could result in a simultaneous, environment would be having to your child could potentially have a teacher who is teleworking from home. That teacher would Zoom into the classroom where the face-to-face kids are located, and we would have to provide an adult, either an instructional para or a permanent substitute, in that classroom with the students to supervise and to support the teacher who would be working or teleworking from home. I hope that makes sense. Feel free to stop me. All right. Simultaneous teaching would still be 4 days a week. for the face-to-face students, still 4 days of teaching, clearly for virtual students. Under this model, we would have to provide teachers with a different level of equipment, so they can actually simultaneous teach a little bit more effectively and easily, and that easily is in quotes. Easily meaning we're going to try and make it as pain-free, stress-free for teachers as possible by providing them with additional camera equipment, the voice amplifier, so students can hear teachers clearly in face-to-face and or virtually on Zoom. So yeah, number 2 in this, it allows teachers to continue to collaborate among the grade level and following the same scope and sequence. So they would literally be able to plan for simultaneous instruction and still follow the same scope and sequence. This may result in a brand new teacher for 4th quarter students. And the reason being, we want to make sure that we balance classes. So for example, if I have 2 first grade teachers, one of my first grade teachers only has 5 kids come into the class face to face, while the other has 15, we will try to balance that out where both of them may have 10 students per class, and then and a very similar amount of students virtually. So that's what I mean by when I say balancing classes and making it a little bit more equal in terms of total amount of people per student. That would make sense. All right, what percentage? I'm going to answer both of these questions in just one moment. Let me get to this third one. This is the hybrid model, and I think this is the model that most people are curious to learn about. And I'll be honest, I'm very curious to see how this will work out for us too, because keeping in mind, this would be a first for Springdale Park to do this, and we would want to make sure that it is run and done effectively. The hybrid model, the only reason we would even consider a hybrid model is if we are over 60% total of students returning back into the building. The district has given, the very first question here, I think, is hybrid model, where guidance for class size came from. It did come from APS. We use a social distancing calculator where you put in the square footage and it pops out how many actual students plus teacher could be in that classroom. So if I have 750 square foot classroom, we literally can go to 14, 15 students in that room, but that's as far as we can go. We can't go above that because then we have compromised the social distancing guidelines. And for APS has made this decision. It is still 6 feet. I know in other districts, I had a parent ask me, well, in Marietta, they're only doing 3 feet of social distancing. And my answer is, okay, well, that's Marietta. In APS, we have to adhere by whatever APS puts out, and it's still the 6 feet of social distancing. Any particular classroom could gain an additional student if furniture or if more furniture was removed from that room. So if there is a teacher with a huge, in-class library, that may be taking up square footage space, which could literally place 1 and or 2 more children in that room. So if we get to a point where we feel like we have no choice but to add more room in those classes, we have to take tons of furniture out of those classes in order to get to that social distancing recommendation through that calculator. All right, so again, hybrid model, it would be 60% of students returning. We would still maintain social distancing guidelines, and I hope I answered your question, Mary. And then students basically would come face-to-face 2 days a week and virtually 2 days a week. So in essence, we would assign students into 2 groups, Group A, Group B. Group A would come on face-to-face Monday and Tuesday, and then they would have virtual teaching on Thursday and Friday, and then Group B would be Thursday, Friday face-to-face with Monday and Tuesday virtual school. All right, so I want to make sure that's clear. Some of the things that we would consider as we're putting students in those groups are siblings. Clearly, we want to put our siblings or kids with siblings in the building in the same group to make it easier for parents in that respect. But I will be honest with you, my goal is not to do a hybrid model. The only way we will do hybrid is if we absolutely are somewhat forced to, with an overwhelming number of students returning. I also want to make sure that we point out we cannot accommodate, and this one's really big because I know we have some Spark parents who will still ask, we cannot accommodate which specific days works for a specific family. We just simply cannot do that because we got to make it as equitable as possible and make sure that it adheres to, again, those social distancing guidelines. Within this hybrid model, this may result in simultaneous teaching at the same time, again, meaning that the teacher would have face-to-face and or virtual students in the room. It could also result in kids having a brand new teacher for fourth quarter to balance those classes out equally, again, with face-to-face and virtual students. All right, so the next question was, what percentage of students back would make simultaneous teaching happen? I know it's 60% for hybrid. In all honesty, we could have done simultaneous teaching to start the third quarter. So there's not a specific percentage. What we're just planning on doing is once we get our finalized numbers, we're just going to plug those numbers in and see where we stand. If we can make it work better or more effectively through simultaneous, then that's why we would choose simultaneous. And I only say more effectively, meaning we're still adhering to social distancing guidelines and getting teacher feedback and input. We have right now at Spark with simultaneous, we have our gifted teachers currently teaching simultaneously. We have some of our ESOL teachers teaching simultaneously, and we have a fourth grade team that has a simultaneous group. So at Spark, we already have it in some way, shape, or form. It's just not mass spread across the entire school with that mode of instruction. All right, any questions before I go into the declaration? Let's see. Why don't you want to do a hybrid model? I don't necessarily want to do the hybrid model because I'd like to be able to give, this is my belief, this is just me, and we can agree to disagree, just making sure we put that out there. I'm not the biggest fan of the hybrid model, primarily because from I think a social emotional standpoint, our kids need to be back in school as much as we can provide. So I would prefer to try and stick to the 4 days a week, because when they get here, it has been so clear and so evident how much they have missed being in the building. They are very happy to be here, and I'm getting lots of great reports regarding students and their emotional well-being. So that's one of the main reasons, but also because we do need to start getting back into a sense of normal, and being able to come back to the school is a part of that for our kids. Also for our teachers are really, I mean, don't get me wrong, we are still wearing PPE clearly and taking lots of protocol, or adhering to protocol in the building, but our teachers also really do appreciate having the kids back 4 days a week. It was something that we feel that we needed back in our lives as well for our own emotional well-being. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I would try not to go hybrid unless we're absolutely forced to do it. All right, so let's see. Okay, Suze, what did the numbers look like today? Okay, so this is the thing. Right now at this moment, we are already at 60% of our students returning to Spark. I checked last night, and we finally hit that 60%. So it means that if we have no choice based on APS guidelines and that 60% number, we could go back to, or we could go to a hybrid model. Now, what I don't want to do, and I want to make sure that this is very clear, is that is not our goal. If we can avoid hybrid, then we're going to do our best to avoid hybrid. So right now, the numbers are this, and I can break it down for you in by grade level. At this very moment, as of February 25th at 7:48, our numbers are this. So in kindergarten, we are at 70% of our students returning. In first grade, we are at 58%. In second grade, we are at 61%. In third grade, we are at 55%. In fourth grade, we are at 59%, and in fifth grade, we are at 60%. Now, today is Friday. Technically, parents still have all next week to continue to declare their intention. So I'm going to assume that those numbers will continue to rise. I'm going to assume that, but we'll know better clearly at the end of next week. With that being said, I want to share something with you just to show you, and I'll come back to this declaration of intent, something that we keep looking at. And this is just to give you an idea of how we're just making sure that we still have social distancing in schools. The exact same thing is happening at the Case Center. So you might not see kindergarten on this list, but I just want to make sure that you guys know at the Case Center, we have a particular number of spots that we could still maintain social distancing and move forward with our current model. So this is just an example of how I'm just looking at space remaining in the building. So the first group are all of our first grade current teachers. Miss Bradford has 14 kids in her room face to face, all right? In her room, based on square footage, she could have 15 kids in that class. So that means she still has one space remaining in her classroom based on square footage. Miss Etten happens to be a virtual teacher right now for Spark. So she is at Spark physically in the building in her classroom, but she's the only one in that classroom. We have 15 spots that we could fill with Miss Etten for face-to-face instruction. Miss Howard has 14 kids in her class, but she still has remaining one spot based on square footage. Miss McWilliams has 15. She has no spots remaining in her class. Miss Palmer is at 14, but there are 2 adults in that room the entire time, so she has no more remaining spots for students in her class. Miss Rattray, which is now Miss Moore, she's subbing for Miss Rattray. Miss Rattray will be returning March 20th, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere around in there. Miss Rattray currently has no children in her face-to-face classroom. She has 14 spots remaining in her class. Her square footage in her class is a little different than the square footage than the first few teachers that we talked about. And then Miss White, she's currently virtually teaching. She has 14 spaces in her classroom. And again, her classroom has a different square footage than these others that have 15 kids in it. So that's why it's a fewer amount of students. Kind of looking at second grade, we currently have 2 second grade teachers who are coming to the building, and they are teaching virtually from the building, but they do have, clearly they have a classroom and they have spaces that we could use for second graders if more second graders return. So right now we've got about 28 spots open for second grade in the event that that amount of students come back. Miss Smith, she's highlighted in orange because she is teleworking from home. She has a classroom with no children in it currently. If we had to, we could take Miss Smith and have 14 kids in her classroom. We would have to place an adult, a para, a permanent sub in that room with the kids to help supervise, but Miss Smith could potentially Zoom in and provide virtual instruction to the kids that are physically in the building. So again, this is how we're just kind of looking through it. So this means basically that we've got some wiggle room where that 60% hybrid model doesn't necessarily need to occur. Any questions? All right. I know that there's some questions in the chat and I'll get to those. All right, just giving everyone a heads up. Third grade will probably be a little bit more challenging at Spark because we have 3 of our third grade teachers who are teleworking from home, which means we do not have a lot of manpower in third grade. So many of our personnel resources, meaning paras or subs that we've got, or even administrators, I could be in a classroom, we would have to exhaust as much as we can of those people with third grade as it is, because we do not have as much wiggle room as we do compared to first and second. Fourth grade, right now they have some wiggle room. So I think we're going to be okay with fourth grade, but there are 2 teachers who are teleworking from home. And in fifth grade, you can see they've got the most space compared to majority of all grade levels. They've got a lot of wiggle room as well. All right, so let me check out the question. How is recess managed or will be managed with more kids going back? So right now we have a recess and lunch rotation where every classroom is assigned an outdoor spot, where they're assigned an outdoor spot, but kids have to stay within that recess zone. So with more kids in the building, we'll probably have to create 2 different recess opportunities to accommodate all the kids outside. Right now, with 300 kids in the main campus, we're able to accommodate with space for all of the for all classes at this moment, for all 300 students at the exact same time. If we end up having an additional 100, we will not have the space to do that. So we would just have to create 2 different recess opportunities for kids, and that's how we would manage it. It sounds like there will be a virtual option for Q4. If we elect face-to-face and the family situation changes, can we elect to go back to virtual if needed? Yes, the answer is yes for that. If you originally choose face-to-face, but then realize there's an issue or something along those lines, your kid can go back virtual. You would just contact me and we will make that change. Unfortunately, you cannot do the opposite. You cannot start out virtually in the Q4 and then say, Mr. Harness, I changed my mind. I want to go face to face. That we will not be able to do because, as I just showed you, we're going to make sure that we exhaust all of our spaces, create social distancing, and make it one of our top priorities. And we will not be able to change things up virtual to face after we have started the Q4. Or so you really need to make sure you do your declaration of intent. So let me say this just really quickly. Spark does not know. So the number one question from parents is, well, Harness, what do you think the model will be? And the answer is at this very moment, I don't know. The reason I don't know is because we don't have all the information yet. And information is going to be changing daily. So the sooner you can do your declaration of intent, the better we will be to prepare appropriately and accordingly for our kids. So you got a robocall, I think yesterday. You've had your teachers probably email. We were asking that people do their best to declare their intent by Friday today, Friday tomorrow, February 26th. The reason is that will give us a full week to really look at what makes the most sense with the most minimum impact or change to students, and then just making sure that we have the resources to do what we need to do, meaning through personnel, to accommodate whatever requests there are. So please, please, please do us a solid, do us a favor, and go ahead and fill out your declaration of intent today. Technically, and I see someone asked in the chat, you still do have until March 8th to declare your intent. Okay, so just keep that in mind. March 8th is the deadline, but we would prefer you do it much sooner than that, preferably by tomorrow. All right, Marie says, it sounds like there will be an option. Yeah, okay. Is any consideration being given to the fact that with less than 40 days of instruction left for this Q4, that students who are already back not have any additional changes in regards to teachers and such? Yes. And that's what I mean by we want to have as minimum impact to student teacher changes as possible. But in some instances, we may have absolutely no choice. We may have no choice. So yes, Tracy, I want to be clear to everyone here and out there. We don't want to change Q4, students up in their classes again. We really don't. We would only do it if it was absolutely necessary. So teachers and students need to understand it could happen. It definitely could happen. All right, if grade levels are less than 60%, could they stay in the current model and other grade levels go back hybrid? The answer is yes, that could technically occur, but the problem is some of those teachers who are on a particular grade level, we may even have to move a teacher to a different grade level in order to accommodate students who are face-to-face. So what I want to say is I can't commit to that. We are definitely looking at that, and we hope that we're able to do it, but I can't commit to it until we see all of the data and how many students are actually returning. More about recess. Are children mixing it all on the playground? The answer is no. When they stay in their zone, and that's as far as they can go. So we've got zones coned off. Students do not leave their zone area, and there is no mixing of students on the playground at any point. Are they asked to mask outside? Yes, they are asked to mask outside. They are wearing their masks outside as well. Basically, Henry's question is, can they play soccer? The answer is no, but one thing that I saw the other day, which I thought was pretty innovative between two teachers, they were, two classes were on the turf. One was zoned for zone A, the other was for zone B, both second grade classes. And the kids were told repeatedly, you could only use your feet. So no touching the ball with your hand. So there was a soccer ball out there, and the classes were literally passing the ball back and forth with their feet to a different group. So it's not soccer in the traditional sense, but there are some things that can happen. But make sure that Henry knows that soccer in the traditional way of being out there on the playground turf, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because a lot of the kids, it's a combination of soccer and wrestling, and we're trying to avoid that. But hopefully we'll see Henry. All right. If we need to change to the hybrid model, will the students have the same teacher when they're face-to-face? In those 2 days, they're virtual. That would be our goal. That would absolutely be the goal to the greatest extent possible. But again, we can't guarantee that because we may need to use our face-to-face teachers in different ways to accommodate face-to-face students on either group A or for either A days or the B days. But the answer is I hope so. I hope we'd be able to keep the same teachers. Can they accommodate more students in kindergarten in K-Center for face-to-face? Yes, we do have more space in the kindergarten center. There is a kindergarten teacher who teaches virtually from the K-Center. And so she's already there. Her classroom is empty. So we do have space at the K-Center to accommodate the increase in students. We do have that space. We also have a larger space at the kindergarten center, the multi-purpose room. It could also be used as an opportunity to have class in it. We just have to make sure that we are on the same wavelength with the church who rents us the building. So we can use that space during the day if needed as a classroom. But yes, so I promise you there definitely is some spaces in kindergarten. All right, will students currently virtual and want to switch to face-to-face be more likely to be put in a room with a virtual teacher, or will all kids be resorted into room? No. So again, we're trying to keep things as, with the minimal amount of impact to the majority of students. So right now, the goal would be any of our face-to-face kids who are currently with a face-to-face teacher, that they would remain with their face-to-face teacher in the fourth quarter. If we have students who are virtually current at this moment and they come back face-to-face, we're going to do our best to keep whoever it is that will be returning face-to-face paired with the teacher that they currently have virtual. We'll try to do that. But there will be some kids who will have to have a teacher change because we will not be able to accommodate potentially putting every child with their current teacher in a face-to-face setting. So again, there's always the possibility that a child would have to change a teacher. That was the last question, right? Okay. So again, please consider doing that, the declaration of intent as soon as possible. It is super helpful for us. But what other questions do you guys have? That was what I wanted to talk through today, and I appreciate you participating. And thank you guys for the questions. All right, what other questions? Feel free to just unmute yourself, and I'll do my best to answer.
Mr. Harness, now that the governor has said that teachers will be able to get vaccinated, maybe even today he's going to announce that, does that change anything? As APS said that some of these teachers that have gotten the clearance to work from home, would they be willing to come back?
It has not changed the guidance that I have heard of or that I'm aware at this moment. So the teachers who were originally approved for telework are still approved for telework, with my understanding, until the end of May. So they would be able to stay at home and work from home. I think regardless of the governor's announcement today or whenever he announces it. But we also have to just remember that if it's Moderna or Pfizer, there's still you have to wait 3 to 4 weeks to get the second dose. So most teachers will not be fully vaccinated until probably the summer. I heard that on NPR today. So yeah, hopefully it'll change a few things though. What other questions do we have? I'll mention also surveillance testing. If your child, or if you had an opportunity to talk with others about surveillance testing, I would really encourage everyone to consider doing it for their kid. We had Viral Solutions here on Friday of last week. We had 140 students test. It was definitely, so I've been tested for COVID twice. One time was way back in April, where I was pretty sick and it was really being tested for antibodies. But they did the whole nasal swab thing where it clearly touched my brain, which was highly, highly uncomfortable, right? But for the kids with Viral Solutions, it literally just stays in the nasal cavity and it's more of a tickle. Kids said it was fine. It was really quick, simple, and Viral Solutions, we are one of the larger schools that had a huge number of parents provide consent for their kids to be tested. So thank you all for that, but I would continue to encourage those who haven't provided consent to think about it. Every Friday, Viral Solutions comes out in the morning and they will test everybody who has consent. So every student will be retested every Friday. We also had 50 of our Spark teachers and staff participate, and I know that number will go up tomorrow. And it was really it was nice. It was nice to be able to do it, to feel safe that we're, that at that moment, it's not 100% guaranteed, but it does provide a sense of, I don't know, confidence and safety among the building and the teachers specifically. So please consider participating in the surveillance testing.
I want to second that. My daughter freaks out about anything medical, and she said it was perfectly fine, and she got a sticker and she'll do it again. So that is truth there. I was a little worried that they were just saying it's not that bad, and it really was, but it really is.
Yeah, it really is not bad. Nurse Carr and Nurse Mac at the Case Center does accompany the group, Viral Solutions, to every class, and she's there, pumping up the kids, saying it's fine, being that support for them. And there were a couple of tears in first grade, but I think next week it'll be a different, or well, tomorrow will be a different story. It was a little intimidating because it's a team of 3 or 4 people, and they look like they are in riot gear, but it's just their PPE. So I could see why some kids would have been a little hesitant. Is any deadline to provide the consent? No, you can do that at any point. We just need that form. You can go to the Spark website. It is listed there. You can print that out, send that back in, or send it electronically to your teacher. That would be great. Thanks, Ms. Carter. Good to see your name. Have a good one. Any other questions? Last thing I'll talk about then, and if a question pops up, let me know. Last night we met in the Go team. We talked about the budget for next year. Originally, I was a little worried about the budget, and I was trying to avoid it because I thought I was going to have to make I thought I was going to have to cut a lot based on just the total amount that we had. You can take a look. You can go to Go Team, go to the Go Team site on our webpage, and the video will be posted there from last night's meeting. You can take a look. The district did provide additional funding this week, which was wonderful. So even though we did have to cut a few things here and there, I was pleasantly surprised and pleased that that we're able to do a lot of the things that we like at Spark and that we want to continue to do for our kids because they deserve it, like smaller class sizes, also offering additional supports to groups of students who have struggled the most with virtual learning. So I feel confident that we will be prepared for next year with our kids once they return. And I have not heard anything about the models or the expectations of the district for next year. So let me go ahead and squash one rumor. I've heard a lot of parents say that they're going to do asynchronous Wednesday for next year. I have not heard that officially from anyone. The district has not shared that that is the case. So right now that is a legitimate rumor. So don't think that that is the case. What are you hearing about school continuing in June? Well, so that one is, I know it's still being fleshed out, but what occurred was this. So we had to do a data check at all of our kids, and the district provided us with a really cool Excel spreadsheet just to kind of triangulate that data and just take a look at it. But what the data showed was that there were roughly about 200 kids who showed a decline in their first fall star score to their winter star, and then just kind of looking with teacher input and observations with their original homeroom teacher and their current homeroom teacher. We've identified kids that we would want to provide additional support to over the summer. So right now we're at it's about literally 180 kids just based in that data that we would probably invite to participate in our summer recovery program, which would be the month of June, 4 weeks, 5 days. I'm not 100% sure about how long each day will be. It could be a half day, it could be a full day. But we really want to hone in and support the kids who are showing the most academic need for the summer. So I think that's as good as an answer I can give. Who is iPhone to everyone? Is milestones actually happening? So we heard from the state superintendent yesterday that milestones, well, that federally the government is not going to provide waivers for students or for states to waive out of taking milestones. So it appears that we will have to do milestones if the kids are face to face. If they are virtual, the school, the district, the state cannot force a family who is remaining virtual to come in and take a Georgia milestones. So it would be just for the face-to-face students is my understanding, but I'm hoping that the district will flush out that, and because this is just based off of state information that they provided yesterday. So, hey, Laura Lively. So yes, it seems like milestones will happen. I'll be honest with you. I do not think that milestones should occur. I literally believe that we should spend that time with teaching and instruction, teaching and learning, but we don't get to make those decisions locally. So it looks like milestones is going to happen.
So, Mr. Harness,
Hey.
in regards to that, you said that it's like the state said that yesterday. Is there a way that just the district can change that, or they have to go with what the state says?
The district has to abide by what the state suggests, or what the state mandates. So we have to do it. But keep in mind that parents can also tell the school that, you know what, I prefer them not. So yeah, that's as much as I could say about that. Big thank you to you and the team. Returning quarter 3, it's a great experience. Thank you. Thank you guys. It's been really nice. I think we were all, I don't know if we expected students to miss school as much as they missed school, meaning the actual building, but they really missed it. And it is very, very clear that a lot of kids are going home happy, and they're more themselves And the teachers have said that because in the beginning, when they were virtual, you could tell that it was weighing on some of the kids who are now face to face. So it's like they've come back. They're not just them physically, but their spirit has come back and been rejuvenated. So it's been quite nice. So any other questions? And you can ask me anything, I don't mind. Okay, I know you may not be able to talk to these points yet, but I also know discussions of Inman future use is already on the way. Is this Tracy Senator? I'm assuming it is, but yeah, say Tracy. But I also know discussions of Inman future use is already underway too. Any idea when our community will be able to have input into those decisions, and any idea what next year enrollment will look like for Spark? If enrollment is down, how will that affect budgeting? Tracy, you're asking all the deep thoughts and questions today. So yes, there has been a renewed conversation about Inman Middle and what to do with that building. So for everyone who may not 100% know the deal, currently Morningside is at Inman. They're scheduled to be at Inman for one more year, which is next year, and then they go back into their newly renovated building. That leaves Inman sitting empty. The district for the last few years, or at least 5 years, as long as I've been at Spark, has been talking about what would the use of that building be. The other day on Monday, well, this was last week, we had a Spark parent who did an open records request asking the district to provide any documentation about the future use of Inman. So in those documents, actually our Go team talked a little bit about this last night. And if you want to see specifically the documents for the potential, possibilities of Inman, you can reach out to Honora Hanley or Kat Hoker, and they can share that information with you. You can also just check out Go Team meeting last night, but it showed options, some possibilities. For example, if Inman does become an elementary school, that would mean that the cluster schools, the Grady Elementary schools, could potentially have to rezone and redraw the lines for their particular school community. So in that, there are even a few proposals of possible zone mapping. So you might want to check out Go Team video footage from last night and just reach out to Go Team and they can provide you with additional documentation. So next year's enrollment. So we had the option, all the principals had this option. We were given the autonomy to choose which type of budget we wanted for next year. So there was one that was called optimistic, and then there was one that was called conservative. So if you know me, I am fairly optimistic. So I went with the optimistic budget, which also meant it was a larger pot of money. That budget was created based off of having 796 students back in the building, main campus and kindergarten center combined. The conservative budget was like 756 or 66, I think 66, about 30 students difference. And every student brings in additional money to Spark for our budget. It's a $4,400 amount that every student physically in the building, we're able to receive that in budgetary support or budget from the district. So if enrollment is down, it could happen where the district will say, all right, Harness, your enrollment did not reach 796. You're missing 10 kids. You're at 786. So now you have to give back this amount of money, which would be $44,000. So so we would have to clearly do that, or we could even potentially lose a teacher if our enrollment is down. But I'll say to you guys, I'm even though I'm optimistic, I'm conservative with the budget as well. And I put about there's $105,000 in our reserve, in our Spark reserve, just in case we suffer some hits where where we don't meet our projection. So I feel like I've planned for it. I don't think I'm going to be super optimistic that we'll have all of our kids back, and any student that left Spark because of the virtual option, hopefully we're hoping that those families return. So yeah, I think I got your questions in there, Tracy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind words. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Any other questions? All right. Thanks for hanging out this morning. Sorry it was so early, but I hope you guys have a great day, and please do your declaration of intent. All right, guys. See you later. Thank you.